Good morning and welcome to another week of Journey with Christ. I'm your host, Mark Mitchell, preaching minister here at the Park Avenue Church of Christ in Charleston, West Virginia. And I'm joined as always, or back from his travels abroad. No, it's not abroad. But Tennessee probably would be considered someplace foreign to most of us.
Well, when I went for my vaccination, they said, "Have you been out of the country in the last 2 weeks?" I said, "Yeah, we were in Tennessee." She said, "Dad, yeah, that's out of the country."
Well, I'm sure there are people that have traveled to West Virginia and said, "Did you go out of country?" And they go, "Yeah."
Yes. They went.
They're different over
That was
there.
a foreign country, yes.
Yeah. Well, how was the trip?
The trip was very good. We got to play with 4 of our grandkids. And it's really not playing anymore because they're 22 and 20 and 17 and 16.
Yeah.
So our grandson's playing on a varsity baseball team at his high school, so we followed them around for the whole week. We saw 7 baseball games in 6 days because we're trying to get caught up with the virus when everything was canceled. So it's always fun. Susie loves Nashville. If we didn't have a bunch of grandkids here in Charleston, she'd be down there next week.
Yeah.
She probably wouldn't tell me she was going, but she'd be down there next week.
Yeah, she might send you a forwarding address. I don't know.
No, I doubt that. No, I doubt that very seriously. Anyway, and also I wanted to thank Sean for taking my place.
Yes, Sean is.
Of course, there's a couple people in our church said that they could have got a drunken monkey to replace me.
Well, and they've proven that they can do that.
You can do that. But Sean did a very good job. I think he's trying to take my job. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean, what you do is you mess it up real good so nobody asks you to come back and do that.
Yeah.
You don't want to do it well, and then they want you there all the time. So he's done a very good job, and I greatly appreciate him taking my place.
Yes, Sean's a treasure, buddy. Sean's a treasure.
There's one little overlap that I'd like to begin with this morning.
All right.
And you and Sean talked about, there's at least 3 parables where it talks about patience.
Mm-hmm. Sowing
the seed and the weeds and the weeds and the plants. And Jesus wants us to know that, especially in these parables that he tells, he wants us to know that we're supposed to be patient. We're supposed to give it time.
Now I want it to hurry up and happen.
I want to hurry up and happen. I want a 5-minute Jiffy Lube job. I want out of there. I want
people to get out of my way. Yeah. I want people to show up on time.
We all have a microwave.
Yeah.
Bang, bang, bang. You get your supper done. Well, Jesus in at least 3 parables talks about how to be patient. You sow this seed. You don't go out there the next day and pull it up. You're going to have to give it some time. You're going to have to be patient with the seed and just wait for a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, you don't just sit down on your hands and not do anything, but you wait for a little bit until the results are there. And when I was watching you and Mark talk last week about those 3 parables and patience, it reminded me that we all need to be a little more patient. Mm-hmm. We got in this hurry-scurry lifestyle that everybody goes 100 miles an hour and doesn't take time for anything. So when you were doing those 3 parables, I thought of my favorite poem ever. It's about patience, but it's my favorite poem. When I was a little kid, the first time I heard this, I was fascinated with it. And there for a while, I probably read it. I kept it in my desk in my office, and I'd pull it out every once in a while and read it like once a month or something like that. So I want to share this with you. Look for the idea of patience. It's entitled Little Boy Blue by Eugene Field, who lived in the middle part of the 1800s. The little toy dog is covered with dust, but sturdy and staunch he stands. And the little toy soldier is red with rust, and his musket molds in his hands. Time was when the little toy dog was new and the soldier was passing fair. And that was a time when our little boy Blue kissed them and put them there. Now don't you go till I come, he said, and don't you make any noise. So toddling off to his trundle bed, he dreamt of the pretty toys. And as he was dreaming, an angel song awakened our little boy Blue. Oh, the years are many and the years are long, but the little toy friends are true. Faithful to little boy Blue they stand, each in the same old place, awaiting the touch of a little hand, the smile of a little face. And they wonder, is waiting these long years through, in the dust of that little chair, what had become of our little boy Blue since he kissed them and put them there. I think we're all, in some sense, waiting for things to happen. And that something like that gives us the faith to say, I'm waiting for somebody to return. I'm waiting for somebody to do all the judgments. He thought, those little toy soldiers don't know what happened.
Right.
And sometimes we're clueless too. We don't know what happened either.
No idea.
But we're waiting patiently. We're giving it time. And even with the virus that we're working on right now, we're trying to be patient. I know people that have lost people who are related to them. That's kind of hard to say. You got to be patient.
Yep.
But when Jesus tells the parables about putting the seed in the ground, he says, you have to be patient. You have to give it some time.
Yep. It is. It is definitely a characteristic that has predominantly gotten worse, lost more and more, and impatience is probably epidemic stages, and I'm one of the worst at it. My dad, this is how I was raised, and this will explain maybe a couple things to you. I was taught from an early part of my life that if you tell somebody they tell you what time to be there, he said you need to be at least 15 minutes earlier than that. And he actually taught us that if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. And so in the clock, too often for me, becomes a slave, a master to me, because I'm trying to get everything done, and then that just fertilizes impatience.
When Susie and I first got married, I'm not saying we went to war with each other, but we had small conflicts on that very idea.
Yeah, Kelly and I did too.
When I was growing up and we went to church, if it started at 10 o'clock, you got there at 9:30.
Yeah.
You got there half an hour early. Where Susie's family, when they went to church, you go sliding into the pew as the song leader goes, number 563. And
well, I know there are some people whose life operates on a sundial, so, mine is more on a stopwatch. I'm up there clicking it like that. Okay, we got 15 seconds to do this. So
the point is, we all need more patience.
We do.
And we all need to give, any project that we do, we ought to take our time and do it right.
Absolutely. So,
Yes.
But today, our project is in Matthew chapter 18, the parable of the wandering sheep, and that begins on verse 10. And would you like to read it, or do you want me to read it?
Go ahead.
All right. See that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I tell you that their angels in heaven always see the face of my Father in heaven. What do you think? If a man owns 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, will he not leave the 99 on the hills and go to look for the one that wandered off? And if he finds it, truly I tell you, he is happier about that one sheep than about the 99 that did not wander off. In the same way, your Father in heaven is not willing that any of these little ones should perish.
This guy's wealthy, isn't he? He's got 100 sheep.
Yeah. Again, numerical understandings, what does 100 mean? Complete.
Yes, it
Complete.
is.
You know, so many things that we could go on in this particular parable. But absolutely the major point is the fact that the shepherd cares for his sheep, and when they leave, he goes to look for them.
He could get really upset. He could be really angry. But in his love, for some reason, I mean, it's the sheep's fault that he left.
Yeah, they're stupid.
Nobody made him do that.
They're stupid.
And they want to go out in the wilderness. They want to go have some kind of adventure in their life. So they're responsible for that. And
You mean the sheep's to blame?
yeah, he did.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I got that right there, because I know sometimes you're not getting this predestination thing. The sheep's to
The
blame.
sheep was predestined to leave the flock. That one sheep. Anyway, we'll get to the sheep and the goats later on. But it's the sheep's decision to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Just like when we going to study the prodigal son, it was his decision to leave.
Absolutely.
This sheep is lost, and the owner, the shepherd, could have said, well, you know,
Oh well, one sheep.
the heck with him. Just leave him alone.
I'm not going. I got 99 left. I'm not fooling around with that other one. It's stupid enough to wander out of the pasture.
So Jesus is saying that one sheep to that shepherd was more important than all the rest of them.
I don't know
But
if
if each one fit in that category, they become the center of the story.
the 99 being safe was not the priority. It was the fact that the one that was in danger merited the concern.
The rest of them
Because he
were-
actually does that comparison. He said, I'm happier about finding the one sheep than just because I still got 99. Because I found the one that was in danger, and now it's with me. That, if any lesson that you and I, as it relates to the people that we come in contact on a daily basis, we need to remember there's some people who are lost out in the wilderness who are God's sheep. Treat them as such.
Yes. And in some cases, they have no idea how to get back.
No.
You know,
And
the
we may
23rd
be there for them.
yeah, in the 23rd Psalm, when Dave talks about the sheep and the shepherd, you may have seen some paintings. There were some paintings during the Renaissance of a shepherd taking his staff, which looked like a cane, really, and pulling that sheep off of a cliff or pulling
Right.
them out of the mud.
Shepherd's hook.
Yeah, and he's going to do anything to get that one sheep back. He's going to be joyous. He's going to be just tickled to death. That's not a biblical term, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be tickled to death that he found that one lost sheep. Now, what have we been asking the whole time? Who am I in this story?
Who am I in this story? Well, I'm hoping I'm one of the smart sheep that stayed in the
You
90s.
stayed there?
Yeah, but in all honesty,
Okay, I'm serious. Which one are you in this?
more often than not, I've been that wandering sheep.
You've been the rebel sheep.
I've been the rebel sheep.
Yeah.
I had the tattoo on my arm with the, so yeah, I was the guy that,
Oh, well, I can top. One time I tore off the label or the tag underneath my bed. It says, "Do not remove under penalty of law." Did you ever do anything like that?
a couple times.
I ran through the house with scissors.
Oh no, really?
Yeah. One time I used a blue washcloth and a brown towel. I've got a whole list of stuff where I was the rebel sheep.
Yeah, you're the rebel sheep. Well, okay.
Let me say one thing about this, and this has to do with all the parables we've looked at so far. These stories are fresh. Now you can say he said this 2,000 years ago, but the amazing thing about these teachings is that it's still the same. The meaning to the first century hearers is the same thing most of the time to us. It's the same thing today as it was 2,000 years ago. That's how Jesus taught. These parables are fresh. They're human. Civilizations come and go. Countries come and go. But these parables will last forever. They mean the same thing.
They're always relevant.
They're always, yes.
Always relevant.
Always fresh.
And usable in the applications that we come in contact with people, because you can literally say, especially that last verse, in the same way your Father in heaven is not willing that any of these little ones should perish. I know that there are at times we as a society write off people. And but Jesus is just adamant to the fact that, he does, the Father in heaven and Jesus himself do not want anybody to perish. They weren't destined to perish. They were chosen to be part of his family, and they walk away. They literally walk away, and it's not like, as you pointed out, God doesn't write them off.
No.
He's still interested.
Never.
I mean, he says, I'm patiently waiting.
As long as you got breath.
Yeah.
There's an old story. I don't know whether it's a fable or whether it actually happened, but W.C. Fields was on his deathbed, and his son came in, and he looked at his dad, and his dad was reading the Bible. And his son said, "Dad, what are you doing?" He said, "Looking for loopholes, son. Looking for loopholes."
Yep. Yeah. Hoping and for possibilities here.
Don't ever give up. God will never give up on you.
That's right. The thief on the cross is definitive.
And this one little lamb is proof of that too.
That's right. Well, you want to try to sneak in and get the other one in for this week? The parable of the unmerciful servant. I don't know if we'll make it. We'll get it started.
1827, if you're following along with it.
Actually, 1821.
That's what I said, 1821, if you're following along with us. Then Peter came up and said to him, "Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? As many as 7 times? And Jesus said to him, I do not say to you 7 times, but 7 times 7, 70 times 7. Therefore the kingdom of heaven, a parable that starts with the kingdom of heaven, because that's what Matthew writes about all the way through his book. The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his servants. When he began the reckoning, one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents. That's a lot of money. And as he could not pay, his Lord ordered him to be sold with his wife and children and all that he had, and payment be made. So basically he puts his family into slavery. So the servant fell on his knees, imploring him, Lord, have patience with me and I will pay you everything. And out of pity for him, the Lord of that servant released him and forgave his debt. But the same servant, as he went out, came upon one of the fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii, which is a lot less than what the other guy owed.
Yep.
And seizing him by the throat, he said, pay what you owe. So his servant fell down and besought him, have patience with me and I will pay you. He refused and went and put him in prison till he should pay the debt. Now, I don't know how you go to prison and make enough money to pay a debt, but that's what Jesus put in the parable. He refused and went and put him in prison till he should pay the debt. When his fellow servants saw what had taken place, they were greatly distressed, and they went and reported to their Lord all that had taken place. Then his Lord summoned him and said to him, you wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt because you besought me. And should not you have had mercy on your fellow servant as I had mercy on you? And in anger his Lord delivered him to the jailers till he should pay all his debt. So also my heavenly Father will do to every one of you if you do not forgive your brother from your heart. Let's just start by saying that last verse, the heavenly Father will do to every one of you if you do not forgive your brother from your heart. That ought to make you feel really, really good, or ought to scare the bejeebies out of you. If he's going to make judgments on how I make judgments about other people. Scary.
Well, for me, that's a day-to-day
Yeah.
verse. There are days I am forgiving, and then there's other days where, it is it's a struggle. And it's the one principle in the life, in living this journey with Christ that we've talked about, that gives me pause in all of my decisions and in all of my treatment of everybody I come in contact with, because I do not want to be the guy. I don't want to be that guy. I do not want to be him.
When you ask yourself, who am I in the parable, you do not want to be that guy.
That's the one guy in this parable that you don't want to be. You want to be the, I guess, if any, you want to be the other servant. You don't want to be the guy who is forgiven a lot and then just acts like it's no big deal. And
this is that splinter in your eye and the 2x4 in your eye.
yeah, I remember a preacher one time. I was sharing him my life, and he and I were talking, and his comment to me was, he said, "Well, it's kind of hard for me to understand because, I did everything that I was supposed to do growing up all my life." He said, "I never got in trouble."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I said, "I feel bad sometimes because I'm not able to talk to someone who's been through what you've been through."
He doesn't have a story, does he?
He doesn't have a story. And I said to him, I said, of all the things, the truths that came out of what I've learned in my life is, I would have liked to have had your story. But I will say this. The part on my side is, because I've realized I've been forgiven, there's nobody else out there who can't be forgiven. So, it gives me an awareness that everybody can be forgiven of their debts.
We all have enemies. Jesus said we're supposed to love them. So that means they're there.
Yeah.
Obviously apparent. We all have enemies. We're supposed to love those people, which is probably the most difficult command that Jesus ever gave.
You think?
Oh. I mean, I have people in my life that just, I know this will shock you, Mark, but they just don't like me.
Really?
And they've even done a few things trying to talk against me or speak against me or get rid of my job or blah, 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 whatever.
I can't relate to that at all.
Well, you ought to be able to, because you're one of them. No, you're not. No, you're not. My grandpa, I can't tell you how many times I heard my grandfather say, "I don't hate anybody, but if I ever do, I got the guy all picked out."
I got my list ready.
Yes, I'm ready to go, but I'm not going to do that right now, because if I do that, he's going to treat me the same way that I treated other people.
I know. I mean, imagine you're this guy, you've been forgiven, and the king calls you in now, and and the king, who is also the judge of all matters under his sovereign reign, calls you in and looks at you and says, "You know what I forgave you of? And you did not have the decency to forgive someone else who owed you just a little amount. In comparison to what you owed, it was nothing." I don't want to be the guy that stands before God like that. And I actually had someone come up to me one time after I actually had preached this sermon, and someone said to me, "There's just one or two people, I just can't forgive them." And I know they wanted sympathy from me, but I couldn't give it to them, because I said to them, "Then you might want to work on that, because I sure don't think I want to stand before God, and I've still got hate in my heart and judgment towards someone who, in comparison to what God's done for me, I don't want to do it." That verse scares the bejeebies out of me.
You're reading the NIV also, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know, like I said a little while ago, we all have enemies, but when Jesus, not only in the parables, but in other teachings in the four Gospels, when he says you have to deal with this and you have to deal with people who are your enemies, you start thinking about the practical side of that. Okay, somebody takes one of my children and kills them and leaves them in the woods somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, am I supposed to forgive? How in the world do I do that? And I'm sure that there are some things that Jesus said where, even when he said them, he probably said, these human beings may not be able to carry this out 100%. But what he was explaining to them is, you try to do that.
Yeah,
you make an attempt to do that. You don't.
This is your goal.
Yes.
You might not accomplish it.
My goal is not to go find this guy that killed somebody in my family and take care of him. My goal is to somehow get through that.
One time in my life, through some history of animosity and struggles through life in relationship with people, someone decided that they would get a little vengeance. And I had just come back to, I hadn't been back very long, but I've been back for a few years. And so I'm ready to, I'm ready to break down and get bad. Mm-hmm. And I'm reading my Bible, and I actually come about to forgive your enemies. And I'm looking at, God, you can't be serious. Lord, forgive your enemies? I mean, these people are trying to hurt you. They're trying to manipulate you. They're trying to destroy you.
They became your enemy by doing something really,
yeah,
really
they're
awful.
not loving me.
Yeah.
They're hurting me.
Yeah.
You say to forgive them? Well, I was convicted, again, because of that one verse. And so I started praying to forgive them and to help me to be able to live with this. The most amazing principle that came out of that was the healing that happened to my heart was it was mustard seed to an oak tree. Mm-hmm. The kingdom of heaven sprouted in my heart in a way that it could never have done had I not prayed to forgive that person and to help me love them no matter what they did.
You're a big movie lover. Did you ever see Billy Jack?
Yes.
It's a story about a guy who hurt somebody else, and then he comes back to hurt him, and then he hurts him again. And the concept that's presented there, the minister who baptized me, I heard him preach an entire sermon about the reason Jesus gave these instructions is because you don't want to snowball. I hurt you, you're going to hurt me, but you want to do it just a little bit more than I hurt you the first time. Then I hurt you again, then you hurt me, and the snowball gets
curse
big.
just gets bigger and bigger.
Stop. It can't stop until
there's enough people dead.
Until somebody gets killed.
That's right. And it's just not somebody, because look at the Hatfield McCoys for years. I mean, it doesn't begin with just one.
Well, I'd have gone after those guys if they stole my pig, too.
But, and it's ingrained in us to not, and especially today in our society, that where vengeance is not God's, it's ours. Mm-hmm. And so we act as judge, jury, and executioner to everything in our lives, and we wonder why this place doesn't look like the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
Because this principle here is absolutely probably one of the, in fact, let's just be honest with it. The story of Jesus is this story. He is the one who didn't owe a debt, but yet paid a debt that he didn't owe.
And when Jesus said on the cross, forgive them for they know not what they do, Most people in the world would have a hard time adding that to their own life.
No.
And I think God forgave those people. That was Jesus' prayer.
That was one of God's declarations. It was just Jesus God.
That's right. But when he asked God, his Father, to forgive those people, I don't think God said, "No, I'm not going to answer that prayer."
No.
I think God answered.
I think God honored it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because again, the story is what of the wandering sheep. God doesn't want any of them to stay lost.
Yes.
So, grasping the heart of God and the heart of our Lord and the intent and the love that is there, if you don't get that, living a life here on this earth will never make sense, because the world will keep influencing you to play their game instead of living as in the kingdom of God. So.
And look at how many. I love TV. I watch way too much of it. But look at how many programs on TV today are. Somebody does something to somebody right at the beginning of the show, and then the rest of the hour is this guy trying to get back at those people, whoever they are. Lots of chases, lots of firearms, lots of explosions.
Disrespected me.
Yes, he did something to me that I don't appreciate, so I'm going to go after him.
Yeah. And it's on.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, not only those shows like that, but Jerry Springer and what's that, Maury Povich. They should be arrested for
perpetuating this,
attributing some of these characteristics to our next generation.
Well, the sad part about it is, that's what I told somebody why I quit watching the news, is because it's turned into a free-for-all talk show host where there is no civility toward anybody. We just...
5 people are talking and you can't hear any of them.
And the sad part about it is, we as Christians find ourselves in acting just like the characters that Jesus is talking about. Somebody doesn't like what we say. What do they? Well, we got to put you down,
I remember years and years and years ago when I first saw Jerry Springer, I thought,
that show will make it.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
There aren't people like that in the world. Those people were hired to come out on stage and start yelling at each other and hit each other and knock each other down. And then we've got these guys that try to get them separated. They don't want them separated because it shoots up the ratings when they fight.
Blood is just an absolute
necessary. We are
necessary.
teaching the next generation stuff that's just awful.
Well, it may begin with acting, but it's no longer acting now.
No.
I mean, there's a beat down now in the public square all the time. Well, Steve, we've hit that moment. Do you have anything before we close out this week that you related to our stories here today that you think we failed to hammer down?
I would say one thing, and I'm talking to me too. Take this week, and you won't have a hard time finding this situation. No. Take this week and look at somebody, study somebody who has done something to you that you've been having a hard time forgiving, and work on that this week.
Yeah.
All of us have that person, one, or some people might have 100 of them that are going after them. But pick one person and say, I'm going to read this parable again, and I'm going to reinforce what Jesus said, that if I don't forgive him, God's not going to forgive me.
I've already got mine in mind, so.
Well, I'm sorry I hurt you that bad. Are you gonna...
No, it wasn't you.
Somebody else? Oh, okay.
It wasn't you.
Okay.
But yes, this week I'm going to redirect some of my prayers in such a way that the anger that is the small seed in my heart doesn't go anywhere.
And that seed can grow fast. Really.
Oh
man!
It can become the monster that what was the movie? The monster that destroyed Detroit, or whatever.
I guess I missed that one.
Well, we are so glad you joined us this week. Next week, we'll be on the next parable, and I don't know which one that is. I'm sure Steve has
Yeah, the next parable is the two sons.
the two sons. All right. If you want to
I'd
read
like to ask you one more thing before
All
we
right.
go. Don't ask Sean to do this program anymore. You know, most people don't understand how hard this is, how difficult it is. You know, like when the camera comes on and they go like
Your
that,
turn.
and the red light goes. Most of the time, I don't remember what my name is or what my address is. But he is really adapted to that and
Oh, yeah.
done very well in going from being scared to death to do that to feeling kind of comfortable with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And maybe
I'll give you my permission. If I'm out of town, it's okay. Sean can do that again.
Well, on behalf of Steve and I, we are so glad that you joined in with us this week, and we hope to see you next week. God bless and have a great day. See you later.